Hi, and welcome to our next guest, Saher Ali. She is a holistic psychologist, a counselor, and she uses art as a technique for a lot of her work, and she's an artist herself. She runs an art studio and a center for her therapy work, which I think because of COVID is closed right now, but she's doing a lot of online work. So, welcome and thank you for being here with us, Saher Ali.
Thank you so much, Purva. It's such an honor to be here, and also I really appreciate you. To appreciate the fact that you have made this initiative to uh, get the correct information across to individuals who would need help, especially during this very difficult and challenging time in our lives. So I want to thank you as well. Thank you for inviting me today.
Thank you so much. Because I think art is like I used to paint, I still paint. So art is very close to me. And I thought that your work is very different. What you're doing through art is very unique. And people don't know so much about art as much as is shown in, commercial market. So I thought knowing through your perspective how art is, how can art actually help people? Or for me, it's almost like a form, like a technique. So it could be dance or it could be singing. For me, it could be anything. Like, art here is like a representative of being more cathartic or more expressive in life. So that could be through any form, in fact. So yeah, so I'd like to know how you actually became attracted to art, like out of all so many options that psychology offers, after our graduation and specialization period. So what brings you to this path?
So my training is in holistic psychological counseling, which supports the belief that alternate forms of healing can support psychotherapy to help an individual get in touch with their energy that would help them heal. And I think you would understand that as an energy healer yourself, as
Mm-hmm.
a practitioner yourself, you would be able to see that how it all comes together.
Yeah.
And the holistic form of healing is can be very effective in helping a person, overcome their blocks and difficulties that they are facing, the challenges they are facing in their life, to help them improve their situation. So the in our training, we also learned how to use expressive arts, and art therapy is a form of expressive art therapy. So it's not that I focus on the art therapy as such in the sessions, but art becomes a medium of expression sometimes when you're not able to, when the client is not able to express themselves or make sense of certain emotions or certain predicaments that they might be facing. So the art is used as a medium of expression there.
Mm-hmm.
And counseling is a emerging field now, and the world at large is becoming more open
Yeah.
to the concept of counseling amongst urban educated population, also amongst the urban and educated population. It has become more accepted. However, when I did finish my training in 2003 and came to Hyderabad, I I've been living in Hyderabad for many years now. But when I did come here for after my graduation, I thought there'd be so many jobs for me, and I could start off my career. But there was no availability, and even to get a counselor's job in a school those days was more to help the parents understand how to read the pamphlet, how to understand what are the facilities available in school. So counseling was considered something that to help a parent understand the school better, not about really emotional. It was not misunderstood. So,
Right.
and then the other thing, counseling was used as a term was for engineering students. Let's counsel them whether they're vegetarian or non-vegetarian and things. So I
Mm.
mean, these were the experiences those days, and
Yeah.
it was just there was lack of awareness. But I was able to adapt myself to the situation slowly, and I set up my practice, and I worked in colleges as a counselor and as a lecturer, and trained students to become counselors. And I stumbled upon art myself in my own journey. And it was just in my when I was in my 30s, I just on a whim I picked up the brush and I started painting. I didn't believe I was a creative person prior to that,
Mm-hmm.
and would have never gone near doing any art before
Right.
that. I
Right.
didn't understand it or value it, but I stumbled upon it, and since then I've been painting. I've been painting and really enjoying it passionately. I started incorporating the art into my practice of
Mm.
therapy, and that helped break the stigma that was attached to counseling and therapy.
Okay.
So it's easier for an individual to accept that they are going for art therapy than to say that they are going for psychotherapy or counseling.
Right.
There is, of course, no stigma in trying to get a better perspective in life, trying to understand what are the blocks that keep you from being all that you can be. There ideally should not be a stigma with this, because there is no need for it. It is just for a person to help them become more, become all that they can be, become fully functional. But yes, I think it is a challenge sometimes. So
Mm.
the art therapy tag works a lot in that way. It helps break the stigma. It
Right.
helps people put people at ease immediately. So that's how I started using it in my work. And I noticed that whatever would help, what before I started using art, how it would, the initially you have in the sessions, the clients and the counselor, they work on building a rapport.
Right.
The
Yeah.
counselor mostly has to build a rapport and gain the trust of the client. And
Mm-hmm.
that would take a couple of sessions initially, right, for the
Right.
client to start, feeling comfortable enough in the process to start sharing.
Yeah.
However, with the art, introduction of art
Mm-hmm.
and the sensorial experience for the client of painting art, using art, that itself cut that time quite
Okay.
drastic, quite significantly, I would say, that people felt very comfortable as soon as they started painting, or they're not painting great things. It's just like about using the brush, using the breath work, using the surface. So that
Mm.
helped ease people into the whole process of counseling.
Right. Right. Interesting. So, counseling talks about exploration, insight, and action. I mean, that process of, coming to transforming your goals or your, working on objectives. So, I clearly can see how art can help a lot in exploration, because, once you're putting your fancies and imagination out through colors and expression and different brushes, or I don't know what medium you're using, so that I'm sure helps a lot. And even awareness, I think insight also, like knowing that, oh, I was angry but I didn't know, or maybe I'm feeling so fiery, like all my colors are so red, or I don't know, something like that, I guess. But after that, how does it go? Like, I don't know, this is how I'm seeing it, but how would you, explain this if you had to?
How the
How,
medium
how does
works.
art help facilitate, the process of counseling, the whole process?
Okay. So, see, counseling is very different from coaching, life coaching, and mentoring, right?
Yeah.
And in that, the life coach, he will take is the expert,
Hmm.
a- and will give you advice on how to schedule your life and how to work on your goals, how
Hmm.
to make the goals, how to implement them, right?
Right.
And over in counseling, our belief is that you are the expert of your life, and I am not the expert. I'm here to facilitate your growth for you, to help you,
Right.
or join the process of self-awareness, to help you, through the process of self-awareness. So whatever you need, the resources that you need are all within you. So it is in your intuition. your inner anchoring, is the storehouse of all your strength and wisdom.
Right.
So the art helps you connect with that storehouse. It helps you understand your inner strength and helps you understand that you alone are good enough to figure the challenges out in your life. Having said that, it doesn't mean you need to disconnect from people who are in your life. There is a difference between cutting people off and disconnecting with them,
Right.
right?
Right.
So it doesn't mean that you're disconnect. I mean that you need to move away from people. But when it comes to your own challenges in life, nobody understands it better than you.
Yeah.
Nobody will understand the kind of struggle or the kind of energy you need to deal with it more than you. So, my job is to help you gain that confidence, gain your understand what are your coping resources, uh, build on it, and fortify you, make you strong so that you can tap into your inner reserves of energy and strength and wisdom to cope with the difficulties in your life. And art is a medium to help you. We can use dance, we can use music, we can anything that infuses your imagination and helps you connect sensorially and keeps you grounded to the present.
Right.
That I use art because I really enjoy painting, but of course, one is open to any other form of healing, any other medium of instruction. So, like you enjoy music, you were saying, and you like to dance. So that itself can be very therapeutic for you if you're doing it just for yourself and not a performance or any sort of classes or anything. If it's something that, of course, you can do, but one should have a little space for a creative outlet where they're able to connect with themselves through a sensorial method
Yeah.
of, say, dancing, singing, gardening,
Yeah.
painting, writing, like that.
Yeah. Wow. It's very soothing, to hear this also that it's like, connecting with that deeper, higher wisdom in us through art, and that is the goal of whatever, counseling, coaching, therapy, healing. And like you said, yeah, that space that each person can create for themselves to be able to connect to that space through any form of art. Also, I think creativity is a very misunderstood concept. I don't know. I won't say socially we've been trained to do that. Normally, it's very easy to blame the society, but I think creativity, the way we think about creativity is to be good at something, to excel at some extracurricular whatever. So I think here when you're talking of you being an artist and how this helped you, inculcate art in your work in this way. So now when I go to think of how people can pick from this, this conversation that we're having about art can be like a medium, a technique, and how we're talking about music, dance, or any other creative talent that people can have. I think it's a very, very misunderstood concept that we think that we need to be good at something in order to take that as an experience in our life and use it for our own therapy, or for our therapeutic experiences, or some form of healing. So can you elaborate a little more on that? Like, because I know that when you started doing art, it wasn't like you were an artist or you were really good at painting, but then you just you just encourage people in your studio to just express, to just paint. It's not about making a good painting or a bad painting. So can you throw a little more light on that aspect of our misunderstood images that we have about being an artist or being just anybody?
About how creativity is
Yeah,
exclusive.
yeah,
So yeah, I remember in school, I used to watch my friends sketch, doodle, and in class and create beautiful works of art. I had decided for myself that I was not creative and would never make anything nice. For my extracurriculars, I tried my hand at sculpture, and after years of practice, was able to produce a slightly creepy looking figure which I fancied to be, which I fancied to be an Egyptian slave. And it's here, in fact. And years later, my Game of Thrones crazy kids dubbed it the White Walker. So you
Ah,
could,
I
yeah,
see.
I can show you. You can imagine what it looks like. And I've kept it here for good memories. Like just that this is the Egyptian
Oh,
slave that they painted it.
wow.
So no, I mean like after 7 years of learning sculpture, so I was able to take home with me this sculpture probably because it would have been bad PR for the school to keep my monstrous creation in the sculpture room.
No, it's nice, and it's not close to White Walker, by the way. It's better than that.
Thank you. You're kind. It's it's just that I didn't take any interest in it because I believed I could not make it nice. I just had to complete it because after taking something for so many years, you should come out with something. So
Right.
that's what I.
Yeah.
I also remember taking piano for many years, and for my other extracurriculars, I had taken piano, and I still remember the sounds of the duets that they would play in school. The other my friends would play, and I could hear them, and they were so beautiful. I really how I yearned to play like them.
Right.
The truth is that my own belief about my lack of creativity became a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Mm.
It became like a conviction that you're not creative, so you'll never make anything nice, is
Ah.
the voice inside my head. And I think that we look at a beautiful painting sometimes and we look at it and we say, oh, I'll never be able to do that.
Yeah.
But it was only years later when I was struggling with something that I just picked up the brush and painted, and I couldn't stop. And it was the experience of gestalt that hit me. What that means is that if you look at a painting, you see. Maybe I should show you this. Can I turn the camera around? Like, no, right? So I'll just show you. So like, for example, this wall that I've painted, right? If you can see the whole wall,
Yeah.
you can see that some of it is paint, some of it are flowers that my daughters have painted and all that. Like children's art is there in the middle, some of the red flowers on top. I just painted around it and I kept painting, small things. And eventually it all comes together and looks good. And what matters more is the joy I have felt or the experience I have felt in painting. So I painted, when I did paint, I painted without judgment towards myself
Mm.
while silencing my inner saboteur, saying that, okay, I just needed to paint as an outlet, so it didn't matter what would it come out like,
Yeah.
but it came out beautiful. And I love my paintings, and it's all right. I'm not going to send them to the gallery at the moment. They're all stuck on the door and the walls and things. But it's just about knowing that you can create art. So when you meet your creative energy, there is a paradigm shift. Your world opens up in ways you could never imagine. Our self-imposed restrictions can stifle us and keep us from being all that we can be.
Yeah.
So, yes, I too was a person who believed that creativity is just for everybody else, the others, and not me. And because I'm not creative, I can't put plastic on the tray properly. I can't put, I can't, draw the curtains properly. It was in small things.
Yeah.
Then, when I realized my creativity, I became more thoughtful and became more deliberate in my actions. I started noticing my surroundings, making them more pretty for me and nobody else. And so, that deliberation and that sensorial connect, it really helped bring peace in my life. And I feel that it has helped me overcome a lot of my own, um, inhibitions as such. So it can be a very powerful technique if only one has to get over that hurdle of feeling that they are not creative, because all of us have a creative energy within us, have a creative being, if I can say. And what we do with that creativity is not as important as uh, just tapping into it and feeling that energy and getting in touch with that energy. Because it will if the learning is very transferable. If you feel you can create something, then you're given another problem in life, your world actually opens up in such a way that you things become possible. You're able to see many possibilities that weren't possible before. There's a very famous writer. I mean, there's a very famous book rather. It's called "Women Who Run with the Wolves,"
Yeah,
and
I have. Yeah, I have a. I've read the prologue of the book. Yes, it's a very famous book, right?
yeah, and it's like a Bible. You know, it has so many. What do you say? Uh, there's so much in that book that one can relate to. And one of the things that she talks about is if you were given a choice between riding a bicycle, right? If I was to give you a new bicycle, top of the line bicycle, or if you were given a choice to go to the pyramids, all expense paid holiday to Egypt, what would you choose?
I would choose the pyramids, undoubtedly.
Wait, Purva, what if that was not your need? What if your need was to lie in bed and read a book?
Right.
So, when we are given two choices in life, we're usually given two or three choices in life. What time do you want to sleep? 7:30 or 7:45? It's like that, right? So as children. So we're always given these limited choices and we feel compelled to choose between those choices.
Yeah.
However, she says in this book that there are other choices. There is an alternate reality. There are parallel choices that don't seem possible today. So when you're struggling with a relationship, for example, or you're struggling with a job choice, you only look at it from two or three. These are my two or three other options. These don't seem plausible. So let me just stay where I am. So
Yeah.
the lack of knowing that there are options keeps you stuck in the same space. It's a very natural thing to happen unless you're mindful of it.
Right.
So I think with creativity, one understands why if the world open. When I say the world opens up, it means that you start seeing so many more possibilities for yourselves and options.
True. So true. And also, like now, because you're talking about limitations, like as a child, when I was going to art classes, like I learned, knife painting and oil painting. So, we're
Wow.
always, even as little children, how we're taught to color inside that box, okay, inside that figure. It's so symbolic, right? That you have to think limited, that you have to think within that circle. Any colors come, any strokes come out of that circle and that box, you're always taught to come back to that circle. So similarly, when I was learning painting, I remember we had this picture that we had to imitate, okay, on a canvas. So it was like literally gridding and drawing exactly the same figure, same thing, run of the mill. So I never, like you just shared that you were always thinking that you were, not good at art or you're not creative. I also learned to believe that I'm not good with freehand drawing or free flow painting or whatever. So I never did it, and I still can't make human figures because of that, because I thought that maybe I'm just good with plant life or stuff like that. So yeah, like I completely relate to this, that we grow up believing that we have these limited choices, and we don't know that we can explore other choices, we can create other choices, that we can step out of the box and look at life in another way. And I think as artists, as people who are in this field, would know this, would understand this, but still it's a very, very misunderstood belief or concept that creativity is very different from what you and me are trying to explore here, I think. And yeah, it's a very tough situation to be able to come out of that box and actually try and see something else. I relate to that. Yeah.
Even for an artist, for that matter, to silence one's own judgment towards themselves,
Yeah.
even though there is the judgment of the outside world, if you can, deal with your own inner judgment, that would, you know, take care of things for you,
Yeah.
your own judgment towards yourself. And even as an artist, people, artists have that, and then they have an artist block, like a writer's block, just judgment towards themselves. And if because the world is we are born and I mean we are raised in a way that we naturally tend to judge others, and only when you teach your child or you have learned yourself about empathy. It's a training. One is not born with empathy. Empathy is a learned training, right? So only uh, when you do that can you understand that you need empathy for yourself. Need empathy. Need to have no judgment towards yourself. Give yourself that space. And yes, there are standards in place in art, and one has to follow that to be a good artist, to be a professional artist. And one must follow that, but one must also know, and the world, it's so life is so analogous to art. So a system has to be in place in this world to run,
Right.
and we have to draw, we have to color within the lines because we have to follow rules within the lines. That is one aspect of it. But there is this whole aspect of it, of life, where our imagination helps us de-stress, helps us connect with ourselves, helps us be better individuals in terms of exploring our potentialities. So there's, it's two sides of the same coin, I would say. And it's interesting that you said, right, that I don't know how to do it free flow, and
Mm.
I find it very taxing to do it, to follow instructions, to
Yeah.
even watch a video and follow instructions. I find it very taxing. So it's you can see that how the same experience. So perhaps my challenge would be to go back to that side and learn something in a professional standard way, which I am going to do soon.
Yeah, yeah, I relate to that. You were just sharing about different texture experiences, different experiences of the surface, and you were like talking about how you painted that wall. Can you share a little more about that? Because for me,
So
it's even the idea of painting a wall is so liberating and exciting because it's like wow, it's like that world is your platform almost.
yeah, I think important thing is that it should be your wall to start off with, and not have anyone get upset with
Yeah,
you.
I'm glad
It
that came up.
it should be a space in your own like room or something that you can
Yeah.
paint without judgment or without anything. So yeah, different surfaces and different your experience of painting different surfaces with different mediums will be um, you know altogether not the same, right? So like for I have experienced like noticed that for catharsis, to just let yourself go, feel that freedom and liberation, it's nice to paint a wall because the strokes you can go like really like there's no border, so you can decide to paint a particular color all over, and you can
Right.
stand on the stairs and do it on those step ladders and sit on it. It's a really like nice feeling to do it, right? You feel like very connected with your art. Then when you if you're feeling like a little blocked about art and not know, not sure of how to start, one can start by painting just some bottles, some stones. It's just about spreading the color, putting some dots, making it look like a flower. You can do that with a stone or a bottle. So that's more for um, just to let you, to ease you into the process. And if you use canvas, now the way your breath flows with canvas is very different. So when you're processing a thought, when you're processing, you're reflecting, the brush and the canvas has a different meaning because it slows you down in a particular way because of the grain.
Right.
And finally, watercolor is something you can do when you're very relaxed. Because with watercolor, it's like this: you snooze, you lose. So it has to be, you can easily just not be able to paint that drawing the painting anymore if you make one mistake. It will spoil the whole picture.
Right.
uh, Watercolor is such that you have to be very deliberate and very at
Careful.
peace with yourself when you're painting it. It cannot be done in a hurry. It has to be done very slowly, and you have to paint layers over layers in watercolor usually. So that's what the surface and the experience can be very different.
Right. So your studio has these walls, like I've seen your Instagram pictures. So the students are allowed to paint on the wall.
Yeah, I used to have these sessions earlier where the students would come in and the kids would come in and paint the walls. But that was all like, and it feels like such a long time ago. Uh, we had, we had these art for kids sessions where the kids would help, would like work with each other and create, they would mix mediums like clay and paint and all of that, and paint on walls, paint on stone, bottle. And we would explore feelings. We'd explore a feeling word. We'd explore different emotions, and it was more about about like how to just telling the kids about how we can feel a feeling in different intensity, with a different intensity. Like for example, when you're angry, it's not just like rage or being so angry. It could be an irritation. It could be it's a manifestation of a feeling. There's something underlying that. When you're being say cranky, it could be that you're frustrated. So just to explore and normalize feelings for the kids, we used to have these sessions, these art for kids sessions, and we used to have in-house catering by my daughter used to cater for the sessions. She has her own label called Cake It or Leave It, and it was like a children's show run by the kids. So it was
Okay.
really nice. So perhaps after the pandemic, we can restart.
Hmm. Awesome. Yeah, that's a wonderful idea. Like I can't imagine myself going to an art studio and having the whole wall done to myself. I mean, wow. It is so liberating, like seriously, amazing. So tell me, Seher, what are the challenges that you face, through art? So when you have people, when you have clients who want to come to you, but they still have resistance, or I don't know, it could be any kind of challenge, not just resistance. So how does this technique help them walk through it? And or as a therapist, what's your experience with art as becoming an answer to challenges that people with anxiety or depression or whatever issues they come to you, and how does this help you walk through it, see them through the challenge?
Yeah, I mean, like when people come for counseling, they are looking for answers,
Hmm.
and uh, they get frustrated when they realize that the answers are within them,
Right.
and have to find it. We have to make an exploration, uh, towards introspection, towards self-reflection, and art is a way to get there. The resistance comes in, or the blocks or the challenges come in when the client is not willing to take that initiative. Initially, it is, the pain is so much that one doesn't want to see their responsibility in their thoughts and feelings, and how uh, powerful they can be in a situation, how much control one can have in a situation, in an uncontrollable, unacceptable situation, how much control you can actually exercise within your own life. So, the one, due to the suffering or the nature of the problem, an individual may feel very trapped and might feel so. Sometimes, yeah, I have them saying, "What is all this? They're just doing something like that." How's it going to happen? So then, one has to be ready. One has to come to the space where they know that this is a process that will help them
Right.
and to act.
Hmm.
It can't be that Seher told me to paint there, so I did it and now it's not working. So it won't work if it's for the therapist, or if it's for a reason that you don't identify with or you believe in. It has to be, the client has to be ready to
Right.
seek it. And sometimes, like you were talking about, like, exploring some difficult feelings can be done through art, like a fear. Fear can be explored through art. Strong negative emotions can be explored through art, where the person is not asked to verbalize it. They're asked to paint the color and the intensity of the color based on the feeling. Because, see, our general tendency is to take all the things that scare us and bother us and put them under a carpet and sit on the carpet, right? And we sit on it and we feel uncomfortable because something is bumping us from,
Yeah.
there's something pokey that we're sitting on. There's something uncomfortable. I'm not able to lie down. I'm not able to relax. I'm not able to do much. because there's all of this stuff under the carpet.
Right.
It can be very terrifying to go through certain experiences, to recall them, to talk about certain emotions. Can be very hard to let yourself go, to let yourself cry and feel comfortable in a space enough to be vulnerable.
Right.
Art helps in that way, especially when you're not willing to talk about it even with yourself. So
Mm.
I would say that, like for example, I would say, choose your color. Suppose, your color is, say, pink is your favorite color, right? So you paint pink on a canvas, and then on that canvas you paint that part of you that is very strong. So
Mm.
you're using your breath work. So when you breathe in, your brushstroke goes up. When you breathe out, it goes down. And as it goes down, it has to become more and more deliberate and slow. So
Mm.
on one part of your canvas, you'll paint the pink very strong and bright, and then paint a part of it that you feel very weak and energyless, and you feel like you lack energy and powerless on one part of the canvas. So maybe you can put a little water there to show less pink in that. So say three-fourths of your canvas is a strong, bright pink, but then the other, part of it is just light pink. So just by seeing this itself, it is a very powerful experience for a person to just see this and acknowledge that, okay, this is how all of this is being pulled down. This part of me that feels weak. Then later we can look at that weak part and we can see what does that entail, what all does it have, and it helps helps a person make sense of the challenges that they are facing and helps them heal.
Right.
So
After each work, you sit with them and you talk about it. You talk about how color relevance that you see, or you help them talk about their emotions. And is that how it works in your sessions?
so it's by if I had to do that, then a person might feel intimidated that I am going to make a
Right.
psychic interpretation of their art.
Right.
So, and honestly, I can't do that.
Yeah.
It would really not be, it really wouldn't be authentic because I am not the person painting it and I don't understand the experience.
Right.
But I can pose certain questions in certain way to help the person derive meaning from their own art. And the colors that they choose, yes, there are universal meanings to colors, like red has the red alert, danger,
Mm.
anger. But it could mean something else to a person at a personal level. So
Absolutely.
therefore, yes, so therefore, like your color would give you a kind of energy that no other color can.
Yeah.
And similarly, the color you don't like, perhaps we can look at how to start accepting just looking at the color. We don't have to start liking it, but we can start accepting the way the color looks. Perhaps that is an analogy to your life, that
Right.
some part of that you don't like, but can we just look at it?
Yeah.
Can we just have a look? Can we allow ourselves to just observe it? So that way it can so that it's not an interpretation, but it is to help a person derive meaning and understand it from there. Like I could give you an example. For example, like if you have to explore the different roles that you play in your life, the different like to maintain a work-life balance, the different roles that you play, I would perhaps ask the clients to paint a line across a small like suppose we have a small piece of tile or something like that. I'm just using this, so you can make a line across like this
Mm.
to show different roles that you play. So red for you as a daughter for your mother, blue as a daughter for your father, green as a granddaughter, uh, pink
Right.
as a mother, something as a work. So different colors for different. So when you look at, so at the end of it, when participants look at their tile, they realize that they have so many colors here. But the significant thing is that it's the amount of time that you use, like this is your life. And in your life, you have all of these roles that you play. So just the fact that you play so many roles can hit you. And that by itself can be a validation for your own self. So it's not something that is untangible, That part, it is something that you would help, that facilitate, it works as a parable, it works as a way to help you introspect and make a connect with it. So it's where it's there is no one of my the messages that I really want to give out in my life is psychology is very effective. It is for better living. The principles are very good and impactful, and it has to be demystified. You cannot look at I mean, when you look at psychology, there's so many jargons, there's so much of information, the language can be very tough, but it's very simple if one has to break it down. So one of my things is to demystify it, to allow individuals to take ownership of their own life and feel like they can, we are only here to provide the scaffolding, to provide a sounding board, to be a mirror
Yeah.
for your own, to help you understand where you are. But eventually, one has to walk through their path,
Yeah.
alone. I'm there to, support you, but you need to make that journey. And these sessions are to help you fortify yourself, to help you become strong for that journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I really like the way you described with this example, the process of your sessions. It gave me a feeling of a very safe space, that when people come to you, for whatever, it's so instead of interpretation, it's really like feeling safe about expressing themselves, about being themselves, and just having a space to open up more and come out more with whatever they want to bring out from underneath the carpet. So one last thing I do want to talk to you about is, we have these all notions about negative emotions, like anger is a negative emotion, so I'll put it down under the carpet. Pain or trauma or fear, these are all negative emotions the way we see it. And so that's why we don't want to deal with them, because whenever we are dealing with them, a lot of baggage is coming out, a lot of unnecessary drama is created. So that's what we've learned, and that's what practice tells us, that put them under the carpet. So can you talk a little more about these negative emotions as a therapist? Because I think um, even mature people, they will still think that it's a negative emotion. Even small children, when they're shouting or yelling, that's the first thing we say, that no, don't be angry, being angry is not right. These kind of things. So of course there's a balance, there's a line between not impacting others, but it's still so important to deal with your emotions, whatever they are. So, as a therapist, can you put a little light on this and show us how you perceive it?
It's a very good question, and it's very pertinent in our culture and in the world at large.
Yeah,
Just that you hear all of these messages about be free, be open, be yourself. Yeah, feel your feelings. Then what does it mean that don't be angry, don't be sad, don't be scared, be brave, be calm? So it's kind of it's a conflicting messages one gives the younger generations and the children. Yeah. However, there is a difference between like then also you have a set of beliefs that where you say that okay, it's okay to feel the anger, it's okay to feel how you feel. It's about how what you do with it. How do you express it? How do you process that? And those are the tools we need to teach our children and teach ourselves first. And more than anything else, if you do it, that's all you need. You don't need to tell or talk about it. Children themselves will see it and learn from it,
yeah,
uh, from your behavior, from what you're doing. And the first thing one needs to understand about handling an emotion is to be able to identify it when it comes, to acknowledge it. Yes, this is happening to me.
yeah,
So just the identification of that emotion itself is the first and the biggest hurdle. Once you've crossed that and been able to accept it, it really does change the way you look at it or process it or react to it. It's based on a scientifically what happens with our emotions is that it is experienced at a very sensorial level,
hmm,
which means that we are able to pick up a negative emotion or a positive experience or feeling only sensorially. So, it's not like that emotion and that. So, for example, it's through your visual senses, auditory, like, what you see, what you hear. So, for example, when the teacher shouts at the kid, at the student in class, and says that, you didn't do your work or whatever, and the
Mm-hmm.
child starts crying, there is a gap between what the teacher did and how the child responded. And the child starts crying. That's the response. The teacher
Right.
scolds the kid and the child is crying. But
Mm.
the child is not crying because the teacher shouted at the kid. The kid is crying because he's seeing some visuals of how he has appeared or disappointed other teachers, disappointed his parents, how he has all the self criticism, self negativity, all, I mean, self blame and negativity. All of it comes as visuals. He hears things, and all of this is not happening in such a dramatic way, but it's happening in a very subtle way we are not aware. So even in our own lives, between the stimulus and the response, between what happens and how we respond, it is
Mm.
filled with this, with these visuals, these auditory senses, like what we are hearing, what we are seeing, a feeling, taste. All of this is bringing back those emotions. Sometimes we eat
Right.
something and it brings back a sad memory of someone we lost, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So now, see, Purva, we are experiencing it all at a biological level, if you can see.
Yeah.
It's a part of our brain that is recording and expressing emotions. I mean, it's able to receive signals sensorially, and the output is an emotion.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's happening at a biological level, and that's it. We have to understand that it's sensorial. So when we are experiencing this, we are trying to handle it how? Through rational.
Yeah.
We're telling the biological part of us to be rational. So what emotion, when we experience an emotion, it has to come in like a wave and go out like a wave. It's an energy that you feel within your body. That's why it's called negative, because it's producing a negative energy within the body, and positive when it makes you feel happy and gives you that positive energy. So that is why it is an energy that comes in and goes out.
Right.
But it has to go out. What we do is, now the negative emotion has come in, now we keep it there by saying, stop it, how are you feeling, behave yourself better, people are watching, this, that, to keep the negative energy trapped, and you're not letting it go out. So what instead we really need to do at that time is to breathe in and out, to understand that, yeah, something is triggered. It has, for many years I've been feeling the same response to the same stimulus.
Right.
Teacher scold, I cry. Teacher scolds, I cry. This happens again and again and again with me. So now you must understand that there's a wiring between this part and this part. There is a wiring that has become so fortified that now it doesn't even, the reaction time is very less between
Right.
uh,
The
someone
stimulus
saying
and the
something and
reaction.
me feeling this, and me feeling that they don't mean it. They are just joking. This was a joke when I was a kid, but they don't mean it as a joke. But we're not able to console ourselves at that time because we're feeling that intense emotion inside and telling ourselves at the same time, don't feel it, which can be extremely suffocating and taxing for the personality, for your mental work. So one has to understand that it's a scientific process that happens sensorily and biologically, and by controlling it through our rational and higher order functions like thinking, we are not able to block it. So the way to do it would be to get in touch with your breath work, to understand that you're breathing in, breathing out, where in your body are you feeling the tension, and
Mm.
to give that some energy. And once you're feeling a little bit more stable and the energy has, like, passed you, you could journal about it, that what in that incident
Mm.
made me upset. And then it could make sense. But to make sense of it, then to have a proper response, then I think it's a bit of a task, a hard ask for anybody.
Yeah, it's a process. Yeah.
So when children are feeling angry, we've got to let them feel angry, because what would happen is that okay, the way they talk, the way they react to it, we can work more towards those reactions and say, look, when you're feeling angry, perhaps you can sit somewhere and breathe it out, have a sip of water, sit with your glass of water and stare into the garden, or stare into the sky, look into the sky, have some sort of time to decompress, and then we'll talk about it. But what we do instead is start shaming. I mean, it becomes like shaming. It's not that we mean it, but when we say don't do it, don't do it, and immediately as a mother or a father, you don't want your child to look upset. You just want them to immediately feel okay. So like,
Yeah.
when my child has a fever, I constantly go and check with her, are you feeling better, are you feeling better? Every 10 minutes I go and check if she's feeling better, either of them. But it's,
Mm.
you have to let your child experience that emotion and make sense of it later.
Yeah.
And the best way to do it is to model it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's
Able.
more about the elders to be able to first experience their own emotions, being more accepting and allowing of ourselves to just experience and be in that moment. So when we are able to do that, I think we can encourage our children at the same time to do that. So I think the reaction comes always secondary if we're able to do this. And like you
Yeah.
said, yeah, it's a process, awareness, and then allowing, and then insights, and then maybe reflection or releasing or holding on or reacting to it. So everything is a process, because all emotions are different, unique, and they're really like evolving experiences for us, because every day they will keep changing, the intensity is different, and yeah, it's very dynamic, I think.
You're told not to feel a certain emotion as a child. If you're told don't be angry, what you will start doing is using another emotion like sadness.
Yeah.
Like you
Mhm.
become sad or hurt or upset, or just go into that space instead of being angry and acknowledging it. So when you grow up, it becomes a pattern. So when someone is rude to you or someone is not treating you right, instead of calling it out for what it is, you will just feel sad and move away from that situation. You
Yeah.
won't come back and say, hey, that's not the way. You need to speak in this way to me. That is disrespectful what you're
Mm.
doing, or that is wrong what you're saying. That's not right. So you're not able to see reality for what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
I
get
feel
confused with the emotions. So we are taught, it may so happen that we are taught not to be angry, but instead this emotion is still there. So isko kya naam dein? Let's call it like sadness. Let's call it like this. And then you just start crying when someone is rude to you, or when someone is being unfair to you, is actually being manipulative, is actually
yeah.
uh, aggressing towards you. You
Yeah.
don't call it what it should be, because you're so bogged down by these confusing feelings of feeling hurt when you should be feeling angry. In your own space, you will be wondering what's happening with me.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
it's important that, I'm a Rogerian. Carl Rogers is my, is a famous psychologist,
Yeah.
who, you know, I mean, so popular. And he talks about how acceptance is so important for a person's growth. To be able to accept yourself, to have, a self worth
Yeah.
for yourself. Will only with self worth can you move towards self actualization, towards a higher plane where you are able to become fully functional and use all your resources to the best of your potential and be happy. And for that to happen, you need to be authentic. You need to be able to say, think, and feel the same.
Right.
Not that I'm thinking something, I'm expressing something, but I'm doing something. But all of this should be in congruence. Seems very simple, but very tough, because there are so many variables at play. However, if we can work towards becoming more and more authentic, more and more true to ourselves, it will give us the kind of peace that is needed to feel that self worth growing within us, to help us, like I said, be all that we can be.
Yeah. Great. I think that's an amazing message, because psychology talks about it in a very complicated way generally, and the way you have, interpreted it, it seems more meaningful and more sensible and more easy to understand and follow, because I think self-worth is at the basis of so much, like all the stuff that we're going through. It's all about self-worth, because if I'm able to think high of myself, I will respect others on the same level. I will not allow myself to be, mistreated or treated less by myself or others. I will honor my emotions. I mean, there's so much to it. It's like a cycle, and so I think maybe we can conclude by this that, it's all about self-worth, and the more aware we are as people, more aware we are of our emotions, I think better human beings we can be, and better parents we can be, better teachers, better companions we can become, because a lot of, because this COVID-19 has got out so much negativity and so much shakiness in people. So I think a lot of it is also because we don't know how to deal with, the sad emotions, the emotions of fear, emotions of anger, emotions of hopelessness, because we are judging ourselves when we're feeling those things, because we think it's not right to feel, all of these, because we think it's negative. So I think, accepting yourself and connecting with yourself, being aware of ourselves is the key. And then, of course, everything happens in that process, and it just follows, I think, one by one. So great. Thank you so much for being here. And I think it was amazing talking about art and how art can help people reflect, express, feel safe, feel heard, and it's really amazing what you're doing. And I really really enjoyed speaking to you about so many things today.
Thank you, Purva. It's a real privilege for me to be able to get this platform to speak about things that matter, and for you to facilitate this, for you to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you
It was
so.
really nice meeting you.
Yes, and thank you for being here. You have been busy, and despite that, you spared some time. I'm really thrilled.
Most welcome. Thank you.